Yai da 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 dum, yai da hey da da hey, yai da 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 da, yai da da, yai da da dum, yai da da dum. Yai da hey da ya da dum. Yai da hey da dum. Yai da dum. Yai da ya da dum. Yai da hey da dum. Yai da hey Yai da 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 dum, yai da ya da da dum, yai da ya da dum. Boker Tov, good morning. Yes, you have the different rabbi today than you normally have on a Tuesday, and so Rabbi Jay had an appointment this morning, but then he was, which he usually has and does alive, but then he was going somewhere. Spencer's in town, and he was going somewhere with Spencer and Leah, and so I said, just go and be on time and do that, and I will sit in your spot. And so sitting in your spot means another opportunity to dig deeper, to connect differently, to think about perhaps something different than Wisdom Wednesday, something different than Friday Once More, something different than our morning connections. And I try to keep it similar, although I'm not going to be stretching and doing breathing exercises, but um, in the idea of mindfulness and midot, keeping with the midot portion of this, which is midah, or um, a characteristic, something that we can hold on to. And so we are this week reading Parshat, or the Torah portion of Tzav. And so in the book of Vayikra, in the beginning, it's talking about sacrifices. Last week, we're talking about the different types of sacrifices depending on offense or depending on how to draw close to God. And in this week, it continues, unfortunately, with one of the, there's lots of things in this portion, but the offering specific that is offered is called Asham, the reparation offering, which is one of those gory ones, which is the animal sacrifice, but specific parts of the animal, and it has to be slaughtered a certain way on the altar in the tabernacle. Just yuck. But what it ties to is the midah of order, or the word seder. We talked, we didn't talk about it, but we mentioned how after Purim is over, it's like the official official but unofficial countdown to Pesach, to Passover, and the work that has to be put in, and just what does that look like. And when we think about Pesach or Passover, we're thinking about firstly the exodus from narrowness to expanse, or from Egyptian slavery to freedom, or however we're looking at that. But we're also thinking Seder. We're also thinking, where are we going? What are we cooking? Who's coming to us? What is it going to look like? How did it look like last year, 2 years ago, 4 years ago? What did it look like when we were children? And we're always thinking about this. And sometimes what people miss, or just don't acknowledge, is the actual English to the word Seder. Seder means order, meaning no matter whose house I show up at, whether you do all the parts, whether you do none of the parts, there's still a specific order. No matter what Haggadah, what book that we use to read from at our Passover Seders, it's always going to be the same order. Whether it is ultra Orthodox in nature, whether it is the most liberal thing ever that you're questioning, is this even, halachically or religiously correct, legally correct? There's no legality to it. But Seder means order. And so when we think about the book of Vayikra, especially in the beginning, the book of Leviticus, we're talking about all of this sacrificial stuff of how to draw closer, how to find humility, how to be closer to God, that type of thing. And so Seder, or order, is a response to sometimes transgression. And so maybe not in our Passover Seders, we're not thinking about it like that. But if we think about the chaos and the order of the world. So it is said in Genesis that the world was tohu vavohu, meaning it was unordered chaos, unformed. Starting from inception. Starting from inception, there was chaos. Now, living in the world 5,000 plus years since the beginning of the Hebrew calendar, I don't know. Feels like we're living in chaos, no? Different type of chaos, but still chaos. Often unformed, often wondering what's going on here. Why does it still feel like we're not moving forward, and we're, moving forward in time, moving forward in advancements of, medicine, legal, finance, all of the things that are technology as the world evolves, but we're still unordered chaos, or sometimes it feels like that. So when we think about Seder or order, when we think about Tzav in this week's portion of continuing that ritual of offering for sin and drawing closer, I'm thinking about why there are such rigid rules about things. So Passover's a way away, but let's think about for a second. My students always ask, well, what happens if I don't keep Passover? There is no lightning bolt that is going to come down and strike you. It is your own drawing closer. It is your own order of following what's laid out for you. When I think many of us, not all of us, but many of us have been to a matzah making something, right? And it's always, it doesn't matter if it was done by the Orthodox, matzah factory, or if it's done just at home, or it was, during COVID, I did matzah making, workshop on Zoom. But it is always said about that beyond matzah needed to be start to finish 18 minutes. Beyond the 18 minutes, it takes to leaven, even though it doesn't really rise. The matzah, it would be forbidden. We couldn't use it if it took more than 18 minutes. It was no good. To fulfill the commandment. The commandment says it needs to take 18 minutes, then 18 minutes it is, whether you like it or not. If it goes over that, it's not good. So when we think about this specific sequence of how we get things done, it's recipes, right? You make a recipe, you doctor it a little bit because you're like, oh, I think this would taste better, and you put it in the oven, and then you take it out and you're like, this didn't set up right, this isn't right, something's not right. And then we think about, did we do all the steps? Did we follow the order that it is? Maybe you did, maybe you didn't. It's like people that want to do a certain amount of steps in a day, right? You set yourself up, you set a goal, and you check at the end of the day and you did a quarter of that goal. Did something bad happen to you? No, but you ordered. We have things in place, systems and checks and balances in place because, well, we want to reach whatever goal. We want whatever outcome to come from it. We think that by offering a specific sacrifice, then we'll draw closer, then things will be right, then we're doing the right thing. Even though everything else is chaos around us, if we can fixate on one thing, it'll be great. But as we remember, disordered behavior, especially in Torah time, disordered behavior reminds us of our commitment to society and to humanity. And if we veer from that, if we veer from what is obeying, following the order of the town, suddenly there's chaos. We're looking for the right relationship between action and between what is the rule, what is the order, the sequence of what we should be doing. It's like the people that are in 12-step programs. If they don't follow those exact 12 steps, it is said that the program won't work. That it's restoring manageability, restoring within an individual, in following a sequenced order, the ability to take the chaos away and to have focus. Much of our lives are managed by an order. You wake up in the morning, your order is very often the same. Have a toddler, and your order will be totally chaotic, out of order. Today, Andrea said, getting Ellis dressed and out of the house is like an Olympic sport. She can barely stand, and I am not an Olympian. So if you should watch what goes on in this house, there is no order. It is total chaos. But in the end, we get where we're going. And that's fine. But when there's order, when you get up in the morning and you walk the dog and you have your cup of coffee or your cup of tea or your bottle of water or whatever that is that you're having, beer, wine, soda, it doesn't matter. Whatever yours, that is your order. And when we cling, as humans, we like routine, right? When things are out of order, when there is chaos around us, we are already put into this flight or fight mode, and we are like, how's this day going to work out? For the people with ADD and ADHD, they don't even realize sometimes that the order in which they do things. I said the other day, things are definitely different. And it just could be overwhelmed or lack of sleep or whatever it is. But you go in the kitchen and you're like, oh, I'm going to empty the dishwasher. And you start emptying the dishwasher. And then you go to get a drink. The dishwasher's still open. And you're like, what am I even doing here? I'm doing 13 things instead of just finishing the dishwasher, moving to the next thing. But there's an order. And when it doesn't feel like we're doing the order, we feel like totally caught off guard. We're like, what is going on here? There is a purpose in our lives to have order, to order the chaos in our lives. We can't control all of the chaos. We never will. God's story of creation left spaces because it's not totally laid out. We've been given free will. Willy-nilly is how most of us live our lives, in chaos. But there's an order, there's a pattern to what it should be. Much like the Israelites who brought this offering, we aim to realign, to reorder the behaviors, to keep ourselves accountable to that which is a system, an order, a behavior, something that feels calmer. From the beginning, God had a preferred order, which was order over chaos. And from the beginning, people have struggled, from the very beginning, people have struggled to order their own behavior in a way that aligns with God's commandments. There wouldn't be a set of laws if they didn't need to have them, right? The commandments are the commandments, and then there's sub-commandments, and there's 613 commandments, and some of us can barely keep 10. But there's 613 of them, do's and don'ts. But it's a system in place so that we can go to it when we feel totally out of order, because we need Seder in our life. This week's Torah portion is a description of the offering, Asham. The offering as an acknowledgement that as humans, our lives are unchecked. Our lives tend to be chaos. And so as an example, this is how we can use ritual to refocus our attention and reorient ourselves and bring order to our behavior. That's Seder. That's order. No one's asking us to be in order all the time, but that would be boring. But when we feel the chaos come upon us, let us find Seder. Let us find order. Let us know that we have the ability to realign, to redirect. We don't have to offer this Asham offering. We don't have to slaughter animals on an altar in the tabernacle to be closer to God, to be closer to betterment for ourselves, to realign, to reorder. But we have the ability to go to commandments, to go to community, to go to places where we can reset ourselves. Shabbat, whatever it is for you. Sitting, looking out at the water. Whatever your reset button is, that's what calls us to order. And so, from chaos, on the one hand, is, all right, we're a little out of order. But on the other hand, obsessive rigidity is also terrible. So we need to find some sort of place in the middle that is a medium, a happy medium, a balance in our lives. So what can we practice? Where can we identify one area in our life that is either for us chaos, a bad habit, a messy desk, an office that looks like, don't look around here. Where in our life can we find a little bit this week more order to our chaos? Let us give ourselves grace. Let the chaos be, but let us find a way to order it, even if it's just one thing. Let's find a little bit of order without having to sacrifice too much. We are one human family, one heart of abundant love. We love you, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow. I'll be back here tomorrow morning at 9:30. Yai da hey da da hey da 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 dum. Yai da hey da da hey. Yai yai da 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 dum. Yai da 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 dum. Am Yisrael Chai Od Avinu Chai. Please, God, free our captive.